Welcome to Spark Infinity Office Hours. I'm David Andrew Wiebe, not flying solo tonight. Guess who's here? The man, the legend, Jody.
I'll take
Ruben, how are
it.
you, buddy?
Good, dude.
I'm always good, man. We're here to have a good time. It is November 14th, 2024. And if it's not, I guess you're watching this in the future, in which case you are a total rock star as well. We appreciate you checking in. Today's presentation is called The Skeptic's Guide to AI. I blurted this out when I was initially suggesting it to another community that I'm a part of. I joined them every lunch hour for 15 minutes or less. And they said, could you come and talk about something about AI on a Friday? And I said, yeah, of course. And I initially thought it was going to be the contrarian's guide to AI. But then I realized, let's not just be different for the sake of being different. I think critical thinking or skepticism is useful. Well, just being different for the sake of being different is not. So we could all do a better job of critical thinking. And that's why it's Skeptic's Guide to AI. Now let's get into it. So from May to September, I was a prompt engineer with Tech Systems at Meta, assisting with the fine-tuning of Meta AI. I'm still with Tech Systems at Meta, gratefully and thankfully, but now I'm a data annotation specialist for Threads. I was spending 8 hours per day working with AI, and in my spare time, I was also taking Udemy courses about AI. So at one point, I was spending more than 10 hours per day, maybe even 12 hours per day, either working with or learning about AI. I still use AI tools just about every day. I am not delusional. I'm not in denial. I'm not a whistleblower. This is all independent research. And the only reason I point this out is because this presentation is entirely about my observations, not about my work. But I noticed that a different picture emerges when you apply critical thinking to the topic. The goal of this presentation, one is to gain a better understanding of AI, where it comes from and why it was created. Next is to reduce the amount of fear we feel about AI, including the possibility of job loss, which is looming and does exist. I'm not denying that. However, there's some things that need to be addressed. Discover the not-so-secret truths of AI. Hint, the technology is still very much human-driven. Demonstrate how following the money will help you understand the tech climate better. And build a preponderance of proof as to why AI is going to have a hard time advancing at the projected rate and why it won't achieve sentience with the current feedback loop. So let's get into it. The birth of AI. AI didn't just pop out of nowhere in 2023 as the buzzword of the year. So we need proper historical context, or at least a little bit about the inception and its beginnings, to understand where we've come from and where we're going. The very idea of artificial intelligence supposedly goes back thousands of years, and the first mention of an automaton can be traced back to 400 BCE. I would take that with a grain of salt, but that's what I found. AI was ultimately birthed in the 1950s, and John McCarthy's Dartmouth workshop on artificial intelligence in 1955 is the first mention of the term. Does anyone remember big data? Jody, do you remember big data? No. Okay. Prior to AI, big data was touted as the next big thing. It would allow companies of all sizes, especially those with deep pockets, to gain unprecedented competitive advantages. Ostensibly, with the help of sophisticated tech stacks and the addition of data-trained professionals, companies would position themselves to predict trends, know what their competition's next move is, and their customers, or what they would want, what the customer demand would be, what they would want next from you. Big data fundamentally failed. It never delivered on its promise. The failure promptly got swept up under the rug, and you don't hear about it anymore. So big tech responded. They said the fly in the ointment was the fact that humans were handling the data. If we can get bots to handle the data, they said everything should work perfectly. And that's why a huge push towards AI was made in the demise of big data. The same cycle has been playing out for decades. The current trend isn't advancement so much as replacing one unworkable technology with another unworkable technology. Big tech's primary interest is to keep the investor money pumping into their enterprises and to appease the clients who've purchased their software and hardware solutions. Once the money has dried up, it's time to invent a new technology that will solve the flaws of the last, which might be a simplistic view, but that's kind of what I've noticed. AI is a lot like a magic trick. Public-facing content is made to look good in as many ways as possible to convince you that not only is it working, it's awesome. It's fast and efficient, the way it generates text, for example. It's smart and intelligent. It has the appearances of being able to carry on an intelligent conversation with you. It's well thought out or nicely designed when it comes up with pictures and imagery and AI-generated content of various kinds. And behind the scenes, there are often human beings ensuring the illusion is maintained. There are some things I'll be getting into throughout this presentation that will kind of reinforce this notion. Have a quick look at this machine learning flowchart. Does it look like a pathway for achieving sentience, let alone superintelligence? Because best to my knowledge, superintelligence, that the technology for that doesn't even exist. This is more of an insanity cycle or an infinity loop. And to be fair, it's machine learning, but they say AI uses machine learning, and the terms are almost interchangeable in a way, so that makes you think. We can't get to sentience or superintelligence using this model. Feeding more training data to AI, which is already in scarce supply, and hoping it will one day pop is the definition of insanity. We need exponentially more training data to achieve greater levels of intelligence, and AI has already been trained on just about everything we can give it. Also notice in this flowchart the existence of human annotators. It does not work without human annotators. Interesting. AI is a computer program, and there are only 3 ways to improve a computer program. You can add code, you can remove code, or you can do both. And when I initially gave this presentation, this is a moment where some people had an aha moment. The problem is whatever code you add or remove always impacts the way the entire program runs. And this is something I've noticed myself, is that one week a chatbot appears to be performing at a higher level, and the next it's back to its old ways. Best to the programmer's knowledge, they were probably improving it, but in reality, it was kind of going backwards. Is AI smart? AI is a computer program designed by humans. No human is perfect. No computer program is perfect. We pretty much run into problems when we throw around terms like smart and intelligent because AI is kind of neither. LLMs simply store information in a database and combine words and sentences together in a way that sounds really good to a human being. The GIF on the left is probably distracting you. It's from the game Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow. It's a demonstration of how video game AI supposedly works. You can watch as one mob attacks the hero while another patiently waits his turn. Neither stood a chance against the hero, but if they had attacked together, they might have succeeded in injuring him. So we're saying that smart really depends on the situation. Maybe in this case, the waiting was smart. Maybe attacking together would be smart, and maybe turning and running the other way would have been even smarter. Smart is basically circumstantial and can be artificially reproduced, especially in controlled environments, such as with chatbots. So the illusion is very easily maintained. And I don't want to give too crude of an example, but some guys out there will know full well that you can have your lady over for a date. You can set the table. There could be wine and candlelight and a dinner, and the candles could have been $2 from IKEA. The wine bottle could have been $5 on a special, and the dinner could have been from Swiss Chalet, and she's still impressed. There's something to home court advantage, as it were. By the way, the game is not that old. I'm acknowledging that it's 19 years old, though. It's from 2005, so it's not just a Super Nintendo era game. It's a little bit after that. Is AI dumber than a cat? Well, NYU professor and senior researcher at Meta, Jan LeCun, recently declared AI dumber than a cat. He says that it will take at least 10 years for AI to get smarter than a cat, and any notion of existential peril comes from a distorted view of reality. Here's a direct quote. It will take years for them to get as smart as cats and more years to get as smart as humans, let alone smarter. So don't confuse the superhuman knowledge, accumulation, and retrieval abilities of current LLMs with actual intelligence. And I agree with him. It will take years for them to be deployed and fine-tuned for efficiency and safety as they are made smarter and smarter. And when he says efficiency and safety, those are no kidding matters. Those are actually big deals. There's a lot that has to go into safety and efficiency for us to use AI at a level that somehow has made it into daily conversation. Job loss. What is really happening? Everyone's talking about the billions of jobs that will potentially be lost to AI. This is a little bit harder to confirm at the moment. I do understand that some jobs are being lost, so I'm not making light of anyone's situation. And while nobody is talking about the millions of jobs AI is already creating, and there's a stat on the left from an article that is in black, over 97 million jobs set to be created by AI. What they're not telling you, it's not just a possibility that millions of jobs will be created by AI. Thousands of people are already employed in AI-related jobs. OpenAI alone employs over 3,000 people, and it's closer to 3,500. It's weird. Notice how everything in the news is being stated in the future tense, like it's still coming and it's not actually happening yet. Mind the fine print. Every chatbot worth its salt has fine print, something to the effect of messages are generated by AI and may be inaccurate or inappropriate. ChatGPT's reads, ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. As with prescription medication, this is not a throwaway phrase. AI literally makes mistakes and errors all the time. Prescription medication can really have side effects too. This is a conversation I had with AI, and it might shock some people to know that it occurred November 8th. So that was earlier this week or late last week. So I asked Meta AI where I could go bass fishing in Saskatchewan. And for those who don't know, Saskatchewan is kind of in the middle of Canada. It's a province in Canada. And I asked it to point me to some tackle shops as well. Here's what's really interesting about this answer. It didn't provide me with any useful information concerning bass fishing in Saskatchewan, period. It began talking about trout and species of trout, which are not related to bass. It pointed me to 3 bass-free lakes where I could go fishing. And it started talking about other species of fish like perch and walleye. I have to give it credit in a couple of places. One, it did mention the Angler's Map of Saskatchewan. That's a real thing, and it is a place or a resource you can use to find fishing opportunities. And the 3 bait shops it mentioned do exist, although one is completely online. I did a quick Google search, and this is what it says. And it's clear and as light in the middle of the day. Boundary Dam Reservoir is the go-to lake for largemouth bass in Saskatchewan. In fact, it is the only place to go. Well, let's look at Meta AI's answer. Does it mention anything about Boundary Reservoir? Nope, not even there. So do you still think AI is better than Google? Or are you just charmed by AI's confidently stated lies? Something to think about. ChatGPT isn't even the best thing. I hear lots of people talking about it. I get that they enjoy it. I used it for a while myself. It pretty much only irritated me. Yes, OpenAI products are currently the top products in quality index, but they're not ChatGPT. O1 Preview stands at number 1. O1 Mini stands at number 2. And one of my favorites, in fact, it is my current favorite, Claude 3.5 Sonnet is in the 3rd spot. And down from there, we got Gemini, GPT-4o, Claude 3.5, Sonnet, GPT-4. So in general, I like Anthropic products better than OpenAI products. However, they're obviously doing something right to serve the masses. Meta AI did manage to break this chart at one point, and they became more highly rated than GPT at one point. And this chart, they're kind of further down. The future of AI is basically safer and friendlier. Here's a little quote. Ensuring the safety and responsible use of AI systems is a top priority for the government of Canada. And they literally launched Canadian Artificial Intelligence Safety Institute, I think 2 days ago. Meta's 5 pillars of responsible AI: privacy and security, fairness and inclusion, robustness and safety, transparency and control, accountability and governance. OpenAI's vision for the future of AGI or AI. Our mission is to ensure, and that's artificial general intelligence. Our mission is to ensure that artificial intelligence AI systems that are generally smarter than humans benefit all of humanity. So, and just as Jan LeCun kind of pointed us to earlier, as AI gets safer and friendlier, it will become less useful in a variety of ways. For example, interesting marketing hinges on controversy, sensationalism, and even creative license. In the future, AI may not even cooperate in creating such marketing for you, meaning you'll pretty much have to create it for yourself. AI generated content. This is another big thing. Everyone was like, oh yeah, I can get AI to generate my content, and then I can publish and push things out faster and more efficiently, and it's going to be better. Well, AI generated content is increasingly going to be tagged and flagged, and this is already happening. If you're an author and have it on Amazon KDP and publishing a book, you are directly asked whether you use any AI tools in creating text, images, and or translations in your book. If you're using YouTube, it asks you if you're creating altered content, and by that they mean anything that duplicates or looks like something real but isn't anything real. That means AI. So will that be a deterrent? I can't say for sure. It could end up being a thing where people ignore it, just like they ignore sponsored content. But it could also be the kind of thing where if they see, oh, this book was AI written, I might just toss it out and not even buy it. These headlines don't help at all, and it's pretty common to see this from mainstream media, so it is what it is. But some of these headlines include AI companies say safety is a priority, and it's not. Risk of extinction by AI should be global priority, says experts. AI is as risky as pandemic and nuclear war, top CEOs say. 14 risks and dangers of artificial intelligence. Here's why AI may be extremely dangerous. Threats by artificial intelligence to human health and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, okay. So what are we even talking about? Because this is the same AI that was confused about whether I could go bass fishing in Saskatchewan. So I don't know if this program is capable of launching nuclear bombs, let alone solving simple math equations, because it seems to have trouble counting in my experience. So here's an idea. Maybe don't give AI access to initiating nuclear war or anything of the sort. I think that would be in our best interest right now. Another really, really interesting example of the magic trick, Amazon's Just Walkout store. They've been experimenting with their Just Walkout store concept. The idea was that customers could walk in, grab whatever they wanted, and walk out without paying. Ostensibly, it was all being tracked with AI. But people noticed something strange. Their cards weren't being charged for several hours. Turns out that every transaction was being reviewed and approved by human auditors, completely negating the notion that AI was running the store, let alone making error-free records of transactions. Great magic trick there, Amazon. Maybe that's why this happened. Amazon ditches Just Walkout checkouts at its grocery stores, April 2nd, 2024. Yes, Amazon is still experimenting with this concept. However, I think it's going to be very difficult at this stage to have AI run the whole shebang, kind of giving you a bunch of different things to think about and questions to ask yourself. We see, if you go searching on Google, if you go searching on image sites, the depiction of AI is predominantly robots, kind of like from Terminator. And I have to point out again, and I've done so in an earlier stream, that AI and robotics are distinct. They're not one and the same. There certainly is a movement towards implementing AI and robots, but that is the meeting place of two technologies, not a singular technology. Right now, AI can't even tell me where to go bass fishing in Saskatchewan. The two technologies are far too primitive for integration, at least on a proper level. Hot take, people watch too much TV and movies. Internet valuations are baloney. OpenAI was recently valued at $157 billion. But just because it was doesn't mean someone would pay that amount to buy the company. The comparison to the dot-com bubble is practically begging to be made. From the late 90s to the year 2000, if you owned a dot-com venture capital funded business, you were considered genius. After the bust, many of the companies weren't worth anything to anyone, not even a dime. Realistically, if investor money dries up and the hype dies down, OpenAI has about 3 assets, at least that I can tell. They may have others, but that's what I count. That would be worth anything to anyone, and they couldn't be sold for $157 billion. They have a domain name or domain names, they have their source code or products, and they have their offices. If the valuation was based on that, I think it would be a little more realistic. AI chatbots are not profitable. ChatGPT costs OpenAI $700,000 per day in computing cost alone, says the Washington Post. That cost could be higher than that, because I think that was a stat from last year. Basically, without investor money, the business model isn't sustainable right now. Are they trying to make it sustainable? I think so. Is it sustainable? Not really. Why is OpenAI bringing in more employees? Why would they need more employees if AI is becoming more autonomous and sentient? Isn't it supposed to be managing itself by this point? Why would you hire more people if your products are losing money? It says in 2024, OpenAI has 3.4K employees, so 3,400 employees. That's a 1,000% increase from 2022, when OpenAI only employed 335 people. The Gen AI bubble. Gartner predicts that 30% of generative AI projects will be abandoned after the proof of concept stage by the end of 2025, citing reasons like poor data quality, inadequate risk controls, escalating cost, or unclear business value. I tend to agree with that notion, and it's a quote from Site Pro News. One thing about this, though, it's just saying 30%, meaning 70% are expected to stick around, but the situation could be more dire than that. Here are a couple of quotes from Marcus on AI. Generative AI, at least as we know it, doesn't actually work that well, and maybe never will. And that second quote, to be sure, generative AI itself won't disappear, but investors may well stop forking out money at the rates they have. Enthusiasm may diminish, and a lot of people may lose their shirts. Companies that are currently valued at billions of dollars may fold or stripped for parts. Few of last year's darlings will ever meet recent expectations, where estimated values have often been a couple hundred times current earnings. The media isn't talking about the Gen AI bubble or the burst as though it's a bad thing. They're saying it's a healthy, normal part of any technological hype cycle. But we all know what happened with the dot-com bubble, and that wasn't so pleasant. Energy problems. AI is taxing current power infrastructures. Based on current trajectories, AI's data center electricity requirements is expected to double by 2030. Double. AI requires a constant power supply, which means solar and wind power sources alone are not compatible. Nuclear power is more reliable, but with US operating at 96% capacity, New reactors can't be built fast enough to meet increasing demands. So says Barclays IB. Yes, humanity can definitely sort out that problem, but it's a litany of problems that make it less feasible. Very, very interesting parallels with the blockchain. Like AI, one of the challenges facing the proliferation of blockchain technology is the strain on the power grid. Like AI, blockchain technology, especially decentralized social networks and NFTs, were touted as the cure-all for the shortcomings of mainstream products. Remember when everyone on Clubhouse was talking about NFTs through the pandemic? Like AI, and blockchain has so far failed to deliver on many of its promises. With the introduction of AI, decentralized social media and NFTs have largely faded into the background. So I was in conversation with someone who's also doing a lot of research on AI, and I'm sure he has a different perspective on this. Although I think the reason we had a discussion in the first place is because he knew I was pointing to something that could be problematic. And he asked this question: what's the truth about AI? And this is what I came up with. If you're developing AI products, you have to be enthusiastic about them, just as a pastor of a church has to be enthusiastic about Jesus. If they're ever wavering in that enthusiasm, they kind of come across as phony and fake and not real. They're allowed to talk about the problems and the things they're going through in life, but if at any point they waver from the faith that they claim they have, many people don't take them seriously. So it's the same way. If you're developing AI products, you got to be pretty enthusiastic about them. And that's why talking directly with the creators of AI or founders of AI may not give you a full picture. If you're investing in AI products, you're watching for when to buy and when to sell. And perhaps you have an interest in the technology if you're investing in it. I would assume so. Even still, you're still going to be looking for when to get out. If you're the media, you know full well that fear-based headlines get clicks, and that's what they're doing. If you're like most people, you believe the media is basically telling you the truth. But if you look at everything with a critical eye, you can't help but notice the flies in the ointment. There is probably one other category here, and that's if you're a critic. And I would not call myself a critic. I think it's important to call attention to potential problems and hiccups we might run into on this journey. And a critic has to say something bad about AI. And that's how that works. So what's the truth? Well, it's not on either end of those extremes. Final thoughts on this, because honestly, I could go on and on. There are more statistics, there are more quotes, there are more studies and everything I could tap into. But at some point, I just had to say this presentation kind of is what it is. Am I in denial of AI, all that's unfolding and what could ultimately be created? No. Am I pointing to anything insanely outlandish in this presentation? I don't think so. Am I a whistleblower opposing and revealing the secrets of big tech? No. You can find the same research that I found. Is there a chance that AI will fail and be replaced by the next panacea in big tech or in technology in general? I believe so. Everything we're being told about AI should be examined with a critical eye. That's really the key point of all this. And we have the ability to discern truth from fiction. We need to trust ourselves more and listen to our intuition as we navigate, especially mainstream media. As always, the invitation is to follow me on Instagram, where this is all unfolding, at David Andrew Wiebe. And some of you may be viewing or tuning in right now. The new book is The Renegade Musician. I got my copy. Did you get yours? It sure looks cool. The reviews are starting to trickle in, and the reactions are very positive. So you can get your copy at davidandrewwiebe.com/therenegademusician. And that is Spark Infinity presentation for November 14th. And it is time for discussion. So what's top of mind for you, Jody?
I think, I think, I use AI quite a bit myself, and I've tried to dance around with it mainly for writing, job search, things like that, just to simplify having to do customized resumes for everything. So it's great, I think, when you have a format and what you want to insert data with. But like you were saying, even with the research of the, going bass fishing in Saskatchewan, it was like the reality of it is that we got to use our own minds at the same time at this point. And anybody relying fully and solely, I mean, I think you could, but if you don't review, you could miss things, or it can make up things that, it's not at that state where you can just rely on punching it in and then throwing it, out there. Personalizing, I think, is super important, and it's not really there yet. I noticed, like, keywords, you can do a lot of keywords stuff, like with the word quirky or formal, those types of things. It gives it more character. Now that I've learned about the memory side of things, how it, you can delete the memory and update. I think that's pretty cool because it does give you at least some type of personality to it, where it starts to learn you a bit, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, I think it's been a fun adventure. I think it could be used to really. I mean, for me, I've had a difficulty writing for a long, long time, like in long form, and I didn't know what it was, but it was like I use it to help me connect more, or have more enrolling conversations, or send more impactful messages to people that way. Because I find for some reason I have like I don't never been diagnosed or anything, but I often start with the back end of this of a phrase and then deliver the front end at the end. So it's like there's something that doesn't compute that way. Now that I've noticed, I can at least make myself aware of it. So
Yeah, the efficiency benefits are definitely there, and I've enjoyed them. When I used Claude, I created a specific prompt, and I
yeah,
kept editing it and kept crafting it until it was giving me the results that I wanted for my social media captions. And when I did get to that point, I was pretty thrilled. But you brought up the main point, or really the key point in all this, is that the human review aspect of it, you can't just take that away or remove it completely.
yeah,
You could look foolish. You could end up not getting the job because you're confidently stating something that's just provably not true. And customization or personalization is still really key. And then the memory part of it, Claude doesn't do that, interestingly enough. Every time you have a new conversation, it resets, but ChatGPT does. And I think I got a suggestion from a mutual contact of ours, Hugh,
yeah,
who said to like go see what it tells you the best job for you would be, or what your oversights are, or what your strengths are, and to acknowledge you for the things you've done well. And yeah, the what it outputted was surprising, and it was pretty
yeah,
good. And
yeah.
that's something I would suggest anyone try.
Yeah, no, it was great. Somebody I know through a course that I did a while back. He had posted on his social media, ask it like you said, similar question, and it was mainly like, from our history, what is it that you see would allow, or would do you see something that I don't see, kind of thing, in our conversations? And that was really cool that it had some insights on that. That
Yeah.
it was very encouraging in a lot of ways. Like I was like, oh, it's because it's the way that I would see myself, which sometimes the world isn't getting that portion. But it was weird that in those communications, yeah, on that side, it was like actually pretty accurate. So it's like, what?
A big thing there is it can't detect confidence or lack of confidence.
Yeah, exactly.
And an interesting part about that I've also been exploring, like I have been, it took a while for me to feel excited about it per se, but what I've been able to accomplish with Instagram in 3.5 months is I basically 10x'd my account.
Yeah,
And more so than ever, though, because now I have people looking at it with a critical eye going, what did you do? Or like, you can tell the gears are turning in their mind. They're not saying it, but they're like, does this guy really deserve it? And so my thinking was like, I've been creating great content since 2007. I put in the time, I put in the money, I put in the practice. I'm just now getting to where I should have been. It's kind of how I feel about it.
yeah,
So it's okay. People can be critical and they can tear me up if they feel like it. But bottom line is, I feel like I'm advancing to where I've always been, what I've always been worthy of. And that's often a thing that we don't allow ourselves to be or feel worthy of that success.
yeah. I think it's a great observation in a lot of ways with the ender there. Not allowing yourself success. I think something that a lot of artists struggle with, and that's just from research or reading books and things like that. It's something in the traumas of humanity, or the connections in humanity, that we don't allow ourselves to thrive, or when we do thrive, we don't think we deserve it. And that's like the challenge, to find that connection, which is where I was going to head in some aspect in the conversation, is when are we going to rely on human connection again and build these, instead of creating more and more computer or tech things that can solve issues. We need humans to connect, and that's the challenge that I think is we're facing with AI. Is it's great you can connect with yourself, but we're already kind of too independent, I feel, sometimes as a society, and it comes as a detriment to us helping each other at times, I think, with the social medias and everything else added on top of it.
There's no perfect culture, but North America certainly seems to tend towards those individualistic tendencies. That's been my observation too. And so having grown up in Asia, I felt like this was very alienating and isolating. I found it very
Mm,
strange because in Asia, in Japan, I never had any problems making friends or
mm.
having a community or honestly having something to do on any night of the week. My friends, even if they were busy at work or even if they were kept 2 hours later on a Saturday night, they would, or a Friday night, they'd be like, yeah, no, it's time to party and let's, have some fun. And out would come the barbecue beef and the beer and, we'd have a good time. And so there's things we can learn, and it's definitely not to say that Japanese perfect. I've heard similar things about India.
Yeah,
People have a very welcoming, warm, open community spirit about them. So yeah, it's strange. It's very strange. I think we don't recognize each other enough. I think we don't acknowledge each other enough.
I agree hugely in that aspect as well. In the acknowledgement factor, it's like for some reason we know we thrive from it, but for some reason there's a withholding of it, and I haven't yet figured out why either. Because it's like, is it just to make us strong so that one day we get that we can be strong by ourselves? Like, and it's
Yeah.
like when we're supposed to be working together in a community, in a world, like you said, like those other communities that are able to support each other and have those vivid connections in family or friends that are authentic and genuine within their communities. I mean, I think it's something that's very relevant in what you've seen and what you've been a part of. So, yeah, I've been there in that place too, to be an observer in an observer state and see, it's surprising sometimes.
I sometimes wonder if people are trying to be strategic about it, like just withholding any kind of praise, acknowledgement, or compliments so they can be in a position of power or having to be needed. Because
Hmm.
there's just so much psychology we tend to talk about in dating culture and in magazines and how you're supposed to be around a man or how you're supposed to be around a woman. And
It limits full self-expression, though.
well, that's it.
That's the thing.
You
Is like
took the words from my mouth.
yeah. I figure I'll fill in the blanks here for you because it's like the reality of it is and when you're not fully self-expressed, then you're not fully connected, genuinely, and then that creates the distance again. So there isn't real connection. It's just a forward-facing. Um, like people pleasing was one of my biggest faults personally.
Yeah.
That I was trained to always make people happy, really. And it started from a very young age. So it's like having a trauma of that in my life. To have to look after people or, things like that. It was like that was the beginning of where I could see there might have been some of that step in with the disconnection of like allowing myself to accept gifts comfortably, knowing that they wouldn't be taken away. Things like that is like there was a lot of, I think, in the generation that we grew up in, and now even as we do more research, there's that generational trauma break. You can see it now hugely in society, and I think it's a lot of acceptance, but not in the whole gender thing, because I'm gender inclusive. I accept everybody for who they are. I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as you're a powerful, positive human being that reflects, a willingness to grow in the community and contributes, I'm like all good. Like I have no judgment. I hope that doesn't sound weird. But it's one of those things where it's like one lady was said, if you want to be a lamp, be a lamp. It's like I don't care. Like you can be whatever you want, but I'm not gonna say you're a lamp.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a reality of the composition and chemicals and people. If you want to be a lamp, this requires totally different things. It has no blood, it has no heart. It's like all these things. It's like when do we stop?
Yeah.
Because I don't mind evolving in humanity as well. And I think there's I've heard some stuff even just since the recent election of things possibly going awry in the States with the whole gender thing going again. And I'm like, who is one to say to dictate who somebody wants to be? I mean, should we not love each other just and live off that? I think we'd be in a much better connective universe, to just be that person and love each other and be ourselves.
I think if we can, because I'm a lot like you. I think there's no one person that I can think of that's less deserving of love.
No.
A lot of so-called bad people in history maybe would not have done those bad things if they had more love in their life.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
So what we need to do is gently separate sort of the divisionary aspect of it and just get back to the human aspect of it. You can be who you are, but let's let go of the division that this causes, because we're just pitting, and we know the media is I say that, but like maybe people don't know or don't think. But my thought process has been that the media intentionally divides people through different tactics and strategies by pitting people against, just like hockey teams. Like you're black or you're white or you're 45 and you're 25 or you're young and you're old or you're fat and you're skinny. And we end up with a lot of division that doesn't really need to be there.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that I think brought along with me from that generation, because there's a lot of, I think we talked about it previously and other things, is body shaming and things like that. Not to get too far away from the AI topic, but that's all in connection.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like the reality of AI is to take the good from it and use how you can to refine your life and work with it. Not to plagiarize or do what you need to do, but I mean, for me, like I say, I write something out and I ask it to refine it, and sometimes it changes like 3 or 4 words or just shifts sentence structure, because I'm not a writer like that. Like, and I never really have been. My sentences were always run-ons in high school English. I always like everything connected. I didn't get like punctuation and stuff like that. And no matter how much I tried, it was like seeing things in an illusion.
In a way, I feel like that's what it's for. Like
Yeah.
even as a copywriter, I'll write up a sales page and then I'll feed it my best stuff and then see what
Yeah.
it comes back at me with. Do I always use what it gives me, or is it always accurate, or is it always on point? No. Or can I fine tune the prompt? Yeah. But those types of efficiencies are pretty cool. There's no denying it.
Oh, so good, dude. You don't even know, like some resumes that I was doing recently looking for work was like taking me a whole day. And that's with the help of AI. And the reason being is like
Wow.
you're also discovering yourself in all these places where you're applying for different positions, right?
Yep.
Like where you ended up working remote recently and stuff like that. Like you've been doing it for a while, but it's like something completely new to me. And I still haven't evolved to be able to do it so much yet.
Mm.
So it's like, it's still very foreign to me. And I feel like I want to evolve. Like I want to know how to work remote, but it's just something that wasn't there yet for me. So I just keep looking and landed a position that's in a consumer facing industry, and that's great. But it's close to the house and things like that. So it's just as well. Either way, it's like working towards a brighter, more effective financial future, right? I think
Yeah.
in that manner. So
In my nomadic life, I kind of took it for granted at first. And then I thought back to when I first started and attempted to work remotely and how badly it worked. Because I would try to remote log into my desktop from my laptop from Okotoks in Calgary. At least I could go and stay at my parents' house and
yeah.
be close enough to Calgary that if I had to go back to my desktop, I could do that, which was
Yeah.
nice. But I wanted to make sure I could do it. And then I realized that's not the way. That's not the way. And so eventually I relied more on systems like the cloud, Dropbox and stuff like that. So all necessary files would be loaded into Dropbox. And then that stage of experimentation occurred. And then I would bring 2 laptops instead of 1. And that stage of experimentation occurred. So there was absolutely a process of iteration and figuring out how to work this work from home thing, not to mention work from another country thing.
Yeah, no, I think
now do, but I think there was a period of practice to get there.
Oh, totally. It's like, it's just crazy. It's one step at a time, right?
It is big time. But I think that's the first step is like book a hotel that's half an hour away or an hour away, or go stay at your parents' house or whatever, and then experiment with that before you try more drastic moves.
No, I think that's a great point. And I think I was allotted that gift over my times of experimenting in my 20s and so on. Or up to that point of my 20s, and then going out and just, getting out into the world and finding something that actually worked. But yeah, it's adjusting careers has been unique this round.
Yeah. Let's just say side effects of the nomadic life.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're moving around even every 3 to 6 months, holding down any kind of relationship is pretty difficult. And certainly not impossible. I had friends that I know that got married, had long distance relationships, Australia, Canada, stuff like that. Not saying it can't work, not saying it doesn't work, but if you're going to work and you're going to do it remotely and you're going to move around, you kind of have to make sure you got those fortress hours and you're focused and you can't be easily interrupted, or your work's just going to bleed into late nights and weekends. And that's inevitable sometimes as an entrepreneur, but it's not exactly enjoyable, and it's definitely not sustainable if you have to keep that up long term. And something similar could certainly be said about building your base of friends and your community too. I feel pretty good about where I'm at now, but
Yeah.
we moved out this way in 2019. So you could say it took about 5 years to have friends from team management leadership program, friends from Abbotsford, there were some people who I knew prior to moving there, and that helped a little bit. Friends in Vancouver because they also moved there from Calgary, things like that, or other success clubs that I'm a part of. So now I feel like there's a pretty good base of people in a community, but that was not immediate in any way, shape, or form. Well, thanks for joining me, Jody. Is there anything else we should cover?
No, I think we covered exactly what we needed to, and it's good to touch base on this ever evolving, subject.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I wonder if we gotten too far from social media at this point, but it seems to me like AI is kind of corollary to that. And
Well, I think it goes hands in hand. Like you
that's what I
said, I
was
mean,
thinking.
I was creating social, cues, promotes, like things like prompts, social like cues and prompts for AI to generate X amount of content. Like when we were doing the Spark 90 that led up to this and things like that, where you were able to increase your growth. And I think, we've talked about that too. And it's important to live in the moment and not worry about it so much. I think a lot of this stuff gets put in numbers and followings and all this kind of stuff, but all that can still be taken away. And I know that gets far from reality, let's say. And when it comes down to it, all of our followers, all of the Instagrams, Facebooks, and stuff like that could end in a night, and we would lose all of those connections. So how are you sustaining your business outside of that? Is still going to have a human connection until forever. And whether that changes from phone to text, which I love right now. I hated getting phone calls, and then, man, I when I first started in the salon, there was a girl that sat there like all day calling people, and I was like, oh my gosh, like leaving that many messages that people don't answer anymore, and like, do you want to text? I'm like, hell yeah, please remind me a day before, please, 'cause it's just, don't forget your appointments.
It's true.
It's super helpful, and that's the type of stuff I think we can rely on technology for, which is great.
It is great. Those types of efficiencies, they did not even exist prior to the internet. And in the
Yeah.
90s, it was, even though the internet was developing, it's practically unheard of. I know Mark Zuckerberg was kind of saying like at some point, all of internet's just going to be like AI created content. And I'm like, if it gets to be that, I'm not going to be here because that's boring to me. That's not interesting to me. Like you said, I want connection. I want to deal with human beings. And at least if I get that at some point it might create increasingly better and better content, but the type of content that's creating right now either hurts my soul or hurts my eyes. So
yeah, man, it's as an artist in so many platforms, I think it's important to, and that's just, I think, my point of view. Reflecting on things is that connection's always going to be the most valuable thing between humans. It's supporting friends, growing relationships with family, getting past things together. You can't do that with AI. You can put things off as much as you want and make yourself feel good or whatever digitally, but it's there's going to be the core of it where we all came from. Human to human. It's got the biggest part of life. So I think there's a hell of a lot of value that's still highly undervalued, not even estimated, undervalued in the world in human connection.
yeah, it's easy to forget. And maybe part of it too is we all have experiences that we didn't exactly like, experiences of being rejected or just a relationship that went sideways or people that strung us along or were flakes, whatever. And we kind of just have to be vulnerable again.
Yeah, I have no interest in having a computer relationship.
Yeah. Oh God, no. I can't believe people thinking that's a good idea. I don't.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't get it either. So yeah, I think it creates so much fear in the human to yeah, you can be accepted by that, but that can't reciprocate. So, it's just fear-based culture to the max in a sense.
Oh yeah. And we talked about that, but I think I'm at least hopeful and maybe, maybe regime changes don't accomplish much or anything in the world of politics, but I'm at least somewhat hopeful that we're moving in a direction, that we're a little more unified, that we're becoming a little more conscious and moving in a direction that's good for everyone.
Yeah, it's all you can hope.
That's all you can hope. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us for another Spark Infinity Office Hours. We'll be back next week. Thanks everyone for watching.
Cheers, David.
Cheers.